In conversation with Frantz Charles. Frantz Charles is a three-time award-winning author, ordained pastor, and public speaker with a passion for faith, storytelling, and cultural impact. Born on January 3rd, 1996 in White Plain, New York, he earned his degree in communication, media production from William Paterson University in 2023. His debut novel, The GCP, The First Resurrection, gained international acclaim, followed by the celebrated new war chest, The Dead Sea Scroll. Known for blending spiritual depth with mythological fantasy, France has been featured in international magazine, television, and book tours. He also leads a growing ministry, speaks across platforms to inspire young minds, and runs his creative company, Godly Visions, while developing his book into film and television projects. And on today's episode of Author Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy, and excitement to have on the show today, Frantz Charles. How are you doing today, Frantz? Welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing excellent. I'm doing well. I'm excited.
Absolutely, it's lovely, really, that we are here. I think after a year or 2 years, actually, it's lovely to be here to sit down and have a conversation around your newly published book. Congratulations on that, really.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. So, Shaz, I'd like us to start today's conversation by talking about your book, Zipline, the GCP, The First Restoration, which is the first book in the
Mhm.
GCP series in Amazon. I would like to start by asking you what inspired the making of it. How did you come up with writing the book? When did you decide that, oh, you need to write a book, you need to tell a story? What's the foundation towards the making of the book itself? If you'd like to tell us, that'd be nice.
The GCP is a secret organization where men and women are called to protect these powerful items. And when I look back, when I wrote this story, I wanted it to be more than just a regular fictional story. I believe if anyone takes time to spend money on my book,
Yeah.
I want to give back to them. So I want to make sure that whatever they get is of substance. So this story, the GCP, it's really about different characters who go through life experiences while trying to get their life together while battling these evil beings that are called
Mm.
gods. The GCP stands for God's chosen people, and I believe we're all chosen by God to do a specific job on earth. And on our destiny, on the road to destiny, we're gonna find roadblocks. And these characters who are called, who are the main characters, they're gonna find themselves in roadblocks, fighting powerful enemies that represents roadblocks in different parts of our lives.
Mm.
So that's where it came to be. And my life experiences, what I went through from 16 years old to 24, I put those life experiences in these characters to flesh them out in hopes of resonating with the reader and helping the reader as well.
Oh, well, that's an amazing word, really. It sounds to me like a beautiful introduction into becoming an author, a lovely ride into becoming a writer.
Mhm.
And if you have a copy of the book, I'd like you to show to the camera just so it's what it looks like. I can
Yes,
see there are like characters in front of it, the lady, the guy. Would you talk about the making of the cover, if or maybe in any way
yes.
those people pertain to characters in the book?
hmm So, um, the lady right here,
Yeah.
it's a girl. She has a more pale face. Her name is Angela. And Angela Lopez is a 17-year-old girl who's fighting depression. And when she's ready to take her own life in the first chapter,
Mm.
these gods who came from another planet are coming to invade, and she has to choose between fighting back
Mm.
or listening to the dark evil voices in her head who wants her to take her own life, and she decides to fight back. She
Mm.
decides to continue to fight, and she chooses her calling, which is to protect humanity. And sometimes when we are so into our heads and listen to the negative voices in our heads, we forget who we are, who we're called to be,
Yeah.
how great we are. And so she chooses to fight back.
Mm.
And in her fighting back, she's walking into her destiny.
Wow.
Um, this is Cade Walker. He's a
Mm.
16-year-old boy who has a girlfriend. He's called to be pure, but love is has his heart, and he's in love with a girl. where when in reality he's supposed to be called to be pure and not be with somebody, but he's called to be somebody who's pure and save humanity, but he's in love with a
Wow.
girl who's pregnant and he can't decide to leave her
Oh,
because she's pregnant.
oh
And
wow.
this really talks about teen pregnancy, where I find myself at one point.
Oh,
And then this is Colvin Walker, his half brother, who's his older brother, and he represents a different phase in my life where he's called to lead and be a protector, an example, and he's tough on himself because of the
wow.
expectations that his father set. And I find that in myself too, where, or even just different men that I've mentored, that I've
Mm,
talked to, who in the outside world they pretend they're Superman, but when they're home, they're Clark Kent. So they put this image
absolutely.
up just to, but it's hard for men, and I think it's not talked about with mental health and everything, and
Yeah.
being perfectionists, being hard on themselves. And so we see it in this character and what he goes through. And so in this book, you see different, multiple point of views and what they go through. And although they go through their own personal battles, they're
Wow.
fighting gods that's trying to destroy Earth, and they have to do that too. So
Mm.
I think this is an amazing story that speaks on life, and you get cinematic action scenes in this book, and so it's very entertaining, very learning and fantasy and adult fantasy. And it's a really great book,
Oh
which has won
wow.
an award.
Oh wow, that's an amazing one, really. And I need to say thank you so much for taking the time to
Mhm.
delve deep into those characters in front of it, telling us a bit about their story, their background, the challenges they went through. I think that's quite beautiful, really. I love the sound of
Yeah.
GCP. Quite amazing. Now let's go into your new book, the one titled New Watchers, The Dead Sea Scroll, which touch on
Yeah.
the theme of courage, friendship, and leadership at a young age. What inspired the making of this book, and also what message were you hoping to send to readers, especially young ones, about facing challenges and stepping into responsibility?
Yes. So New Watchers, the Dead Sea Scroll. New Watchers is really the latest book I have that I released in 2023.
Oh,
And in New Watchers, you see a group of friends, which are all mainly women, and they're all young. And this is more so a prequel to what happened in the GCP.
oh
But
wow.
they're in a different group. Yeah, they're in a different group than the GCP. They're in the New Watchers, and we're all called to watch over humanity. And in
Yeah,
humanity, we're called to watch over humanity and be helpers.
yeah,
I do believe we all have a gift, a calling. And that same message I have in GCP is really the same thing. It's in the same series. Um, and they're fighting more so gods that are talked about on Earth and not really some things I
mm,
made up in the GCP. So one of the things I wanted to teach, I love history.
oh
And
wow.
so in Haiti, which my parents were born from, they there's this saying to never go in the water. Because they believe that there's evil creatures in the water, there's evil mermaids in the water.
Mm,
And so you see the evil mermaid right here. And in Haiti, it's called La Sirène or a siren.
oh,
And in this story, they battle this evil mermaid who's trying to flood the earth and bring it back to its dark void days. And
mm,
so they're called to, they're told to stay inside and wait and see what the older people do.
mm,
But this talks about friendship, courage, and stepping out of faith and having courage and not
wow.
have fear and defeat this powerful enemy. And so that's really what it talks about.
Oh wow.
It's not as deep as GCP because
Oh,
it's for middle grade, but it talks about courage, and having the right group of friends and
mm.
bravery.
Oh wow. I love the sound of that, really. I think
Mhm.
it's quite beautiful. All of these things touch on things that even pertain to we as human, which is quite amazing. One of the beauty I love about literature, being able to read a
Mhm.
story and relate it to real life experiences. I think it's a beautiful combination, really. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Thank you. Now,
Yeah.
you've written both young adult and middle grade fantasy. I wanted to ask you, what draws you to write for younger audience, if anything?
Well, I believe I have a personal philosophy where if you want to change the world, then you have to look at the youth, the next
Absolutely.
generation.
Yeah.
You can't start with the 50-year-olds or the 40-year-olds because they already experienced life, and there's not much teaching you can really give them.
Yeah.
But if you want to change the world, start with the youth because they're the
Yeah.
next generation. And so that's my target audience are the youth, and that's why I find myself not just making regular books to waste time, but books that
Mhm.
can entertain them, but at the same time teach them valuable lessons.
Yeah.
Even when I have conversations outside of the books, even when I have conversations, my conversations are about substance
Mm.
and hopes of teaching people, helping people, and that's where I find my calling at.
Wow.
You
That's
know?
an amazing one, really. I do agree with you. If you want to change the world, it's very good to start with the young folks. Because as the young folks grow, they grow together with what they've learned, what they've utilized.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lot that needs to be done in our current world. Because it's going quite uncontrollable.
Yeah, and
There's a lot that needs to be done towards the youth. It's an
I think that's
amazing
why they
call to
say
action.
teachers are important.
Very
Yeah,
important. Very important. Thank
yeah.
you. I love your take on that. And also, you also sometimes blend, not even sometimes, most time actually, blend faith and
Hmm.
spirituality. Seems to be a strong element in your work. I wanted to ask you, how do you balance these themes with fantasy and action? That must be some talent, bro.
Um, so one of the things I wanted to do was I didn't want to blend too much. I wanted to balance it, just like you said. I wanted to balance it. I didn't want to do too much, like I'm preaching in a book.
Mm.
Um, because I know some people aren't Christians, and that's completely
Yeah.
fine. But I do believe in speaking, just putting in gems, putting in truth, putting in proverbs, wise sayings, and I think we can always and put that in stories where they can learn because
Mm.
you can watch movies and still learn something from it, even if it's secular. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's just why not? I can't do the same. Why not? Why not? Right. So for me, it was just putting in a story and putting in some truth that way they can look back, read it, learn from it, quote it.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's my gift to humanity to give back and teach things because the best the best teacher's experience, right? And so what I experience, I put
Mm.
truth into it and I give it back to the people. And
Wow.
that's it.
That's an amazing one, really. I love your take on that. Quite beautiful and quite fun for me. Thank you. Now, I'd like us to diversify a little bit now into the topic of readers and feedbacks. 'Cause one of the things I love mostly as a writer is to
Hmm.
sit back, fold my hands, grab a cup of coffee, and read reviews and, get to see what people are saying over the book. And sometimes some readers might get a message intended by the author, because I think this is one of the things that makes literature to be quite complicated. The fact that somebody can read it, another person interpret it quite differently, another person will interpret it quite different, and we have an array of
Hmm.
different interpretation from person to person. Say people have come together in a room to talk about a book, and we keep having different reviews, different feedbacks on one particular book that has just been read. And but I wanted to ask you, how do you feel when readers interpret your work differently than you intended? How does that make you feel as a storyteller?
Yeah, it's honestly because writing is an art, right? We can all agree that writing a book is an art, right? It's creative writing,
Yeah,
if it's fiction, and it's an art. And when you go to a museum and you look at art, you may look at it and say, you know what? I wonder what this sculpture means
yeah,
or this painting. I wonder what the artist was thinking.
yeah,
One person in the museum might look at it and see something, and the other might think differently.
yeah,
And for me, it was just like when they read my book, I'm the artist, they might read it and say, I wonder what he was thinking. One may take it as he's talking spiritually, the other one's talking about he's talking about mythology, African
mm,
mythology or Haitian Caribbean mythology with the thingy. So
mm,
I always take it as read it and if interpret it. And I'm honestly fine
mm,
with whatever you see from it. As long as you learn something from it, as long as you
yeah,
get something from it. That's all I can say. But so I don't mind if they have different interpretations.
yeah,
So because I've had reviews on the newspaper and they saw it as different. They didn't see it in the spiritual way. Sometimes they just saw it as action packed, and that's fine.
Oh,
There's a lot of
okay.
action in my stories, so
That's
you know,
amazing.
I'm
And I
fine with
love
it.
I love your answer. I love your method of answering that. You comparing it to somebody going to a museum and seeing an artwork and somebody interpret it quite differently and
Hmm.
it could mean something else to somebody else. That is exactly what artists go through. You produce even the best of books that garner a lot of five-star ratings sometimes would have one single person that would say, "Oh no, I don't understand what the author is talking about." It's like an artwork. It has been produced out there. It is now left for the reader's cup of tea, not that of the writer
Yeah,
anymore. Quite beautiful. I love your take on that. Quite amazing, really. Thank you. Thank you. Now, just apart from the GCP and
you're
New
welcome.
Watchers, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on?
Yeah, I am working on a third book, and this third book will be the continuation of the
Wow.
New Watchers. So it's all within the series, and it will be something that's very special. Something I've been working really hard on. Right now,
Mm,
I have my agent reading it, and so right now
mm,
it's in the process of being reviewed. And yeah, so I'm still doing edit. I'm still in the editing phase. I'm done, but I'm just in the editing phase and having him read it.
mm.
But I am working on a third book, and yeah,
That's amazing. It's amazing you've
that's all I
got,
can really say.
yeah, it's amazing you got something else working on. That's quite commendable. I hope you find some times to sleep. That's
Yeah,
because I know writing takes quite a lot of time, really. It takes a lot of
yeah,
time. Even myself, I'm trying to work on some book and I'm like, oh goodness, I'm struggling to find the time to do all of these things. So to talk about somebody writing a full-length novel, that's quite a lot, really. Quite commendable. This is one of the
yeah.
reasons why I feel like sometimes writers need to be praised more for the works they produce. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. That was quite amazing. Thank you. Now, I wanted to ask you, as a published author, what sort of advice would you give a struggling writer? Those who, maybe for instance, are head back with writer's block, or they are struggling with
Mhm.
publishing, or finding their way a route into getting into the publishing world, into the world of being called an actual author. What would you tell people in this category?
One thing I would say is um, take your time, and I think that's the biggest thing. Take your time with publishing. Take your time with the editing. I know the editing phase can be super hard,
Yeah, it can.
so take your time. Be your biggest supporter in this industry because no one's going to support you more than
Mm,
yourself.
yeah.
Even if it's a small win, support yourself.
Yeah.
Celebrate yourself, even if it's a small win.
Yeah.
Take your time, and do know that this industry is extremely subjective. What one agent might say, even if they're a notable agent, another might think it's good. One
Mm,
reader who's a reviewer might say it's horrible and give it 2 stars. Someone else might find it incredibly amazing and give it 5 stars. So
mm,
um, don't let the outside noise distract you. Don't let the outside noise discourage you.
mm.
Continue to write what's in your heart and write what's meaningful to you.
That's an amazing advice you've got in there, and I'm hoping that viewers, even myself, would love to
Hmm.
utilize it. And Charles, just in case we have some viewers who are currently watching this interview and would love to get a copy of any of your books, on what
Hmm.
platform are they available on for purchase?
You can go on Amazon, or you can just type in my name, Frantz Charles, or the titles of my book, New Watchers, the Dead Sea Scroll, or the GCP, The First Resurrection. You type it up on Google, you'll see it, and then you can just purchase it in any link, really. That's where you'll find it. And I did want to leave a last word to the viewers and people who might see it, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Any last words I wanted to say?
Yeah, please do.
Yes, I just want to say we're all called, and it's not by coincidence that you are put here on this earth. You were thought of by God,
Mm,
and even if you may not believe in God, it's not by coincidence you were placed in where you're placed at, right? So palm trees were put in in hot environments, polar
mm,
bears in cold environments, a cactus in a hot environment, and you were placed right where you're at. And it may not
yeah.
have been ideal the way you grew up, but God has a plan. You have gifts and talents that was packaged in you.
Mm,
And I believe if you continue to work on your craft and build on what you're called to be, then you'll find purpose there. And with purpose, you'll find satisfaction, who you're called to be. You'll find
Mm,
fulfillment there and pursue
mm,
who you're called to be and your gifts and callings. So that's a lot what really the story's about, you know. So that's what I want to tell the readers. Do not give up. Do not give up in what people say, or if you're dealing with mental health, don't give into those negative voices and pursue your calling and your purpose. That's it.
mm. Oh wow, that's an amazing one. That's quite a motivating afterward you've gotten there. Quite amazing and quite inspiring. And I'm very
Mhm.
sure somebody is going to be touched with that. Thank you so much for a lovely addition to that. Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I left
Thank
a
you.
link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Frantz Charles' books directly on Amazon and Barnes& and Nobles on his website and also another platform. Also left a link to his social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Charles, for accepting the invitation to be featured on the show. It's quite lovely to have you back again, talk about the GCP
Thank
and
you so
lovely new
much.
watches. Thank you for coming on.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as well.